Good afternoon, hello, and welcome to Bitovi Clavius Adventures, creating game with Angular and PixiJS Day 2. So, here at Bitovi, we are experts in front-end development that includes Angular, React, Node.js, DevOps, project management, UX, and more. If you find yourself in a need of web application development help, reach out to us for a free consultation by emailing contact@bitovi.com or visiting our website at bitovi.com. Also, check out our new Discord channel. You can see the link in the chat. Listen to the link. My name is Igor Sirik, and I'm a member of Angular team. Today, I'm joined by Mark Thompson, who is also a member of Angular team. First off, thanks, Mark, for coming on the stream. And how are you doing?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Awesome. For the audience, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your gaming experience? What was the first video game that you ever played, and what did you enjoy about it?
Oh man, first video game. I don't think my memory is good enough to remember my first video game, but it probably was something like Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis.
Nice. I definitely after the stream I will do some research. I didn't know about that game. That was
Oh
like
really?
for the yeah. Was that like PC game or?
Oh yeah, it was like a platformer. It was at the time a competitor for the Mario games. It was
Nice.
yeah.
And if you would design your own video game, what kind of game would it be? And what features would it have?
Um, I'd have to go with one of my favorite games was the Kingdom Hearts series. I really fell in love with Kingdom Hearts 2. So I'd probably do like an action platformer that has a lot of mechanics that like Kingdom Hearts 2 has. So live action, a lot of cool sword stuff, magic, things
Nice.
like that.
So like what is it called? Like Skyrim, something like that, I guess.
I think Skyrim's like first person. But yeah, more like a third person, kind of like how most like
Like
platformers are.
Diablo. Yeah.
Diablo, close enough. Yeah, closer. Yeah.
Good. Sounds really cool. And kind of the last question as we wrap up this introduction part and we start to getting into the Clavius Adventures code part. Uh, from the code perspective, what are some of the feature trends or advancements in Angular development that you see having a significant impact on game development that I'm thinking like maybe that could be standalone components and signals?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd have to say that, like with most, like for most developers going into Angular for game development or not, standalone components does trim up a bit of that boilerplate that you have to mess with to jump into Angular. So like that's nice. Outside of that, I would say that signals could be a good impact, but I think most frameworks involved with game development typically have to do with Canvas. So you're not really going to get a whole lot of benefit out of like Angular's upcoming performance improvements um, for that
Yeah.
reason. But Watobi does have a blog coming out with a bunch of very good tips on how to manage performance in your Angular application. It goes over topics like memory leaks, how to tweak the change detection strategy, how to deal with frequent data updates, how to use utilities like run outside Angular, and how to take advantage of web workers to do heavy computations. So if you're interested in those strategies, it definitely could be helpful for making games. I would follow us on Discord, follow us on Twitter, and stay on top of those blog posts.
That's really awesome. I personally I can't wait to that blog post come up and to see and to track everything about web workers, since web workers are really awesome, especially from the progressive web app applications, that we can use the advantage of that inside of the game development.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, let's then now move to the code part. All right, looks good. So here, what we can see is the part that we will actually cover today, and that is adding the player and working with the player movements, so our player can move back and forth, up and down. And then also we will see how we can handle setting like the different player states, for example, like hitting, and after in the future, after we will develop that, player will have the health, and once the health are lost, our character will be destroyed. So everything is available on GitHub. The repo is repository is fully updated. I'm sending you in the chat the link to the GitHub branch, and we can now switch to the code part. Before I move to the everything that we will cover today, I would like to make one step back and just to comment a little bit about CSS and how I changed after the first stream the CSS. So in first place, last stream I used position relative, but after the Twitch I got recommendation that actually from the performance perspective, using the position fixed or absolute is not highly recommended. Actually, it can cause kind of performance issue leak or something like that. Start making like using a lot of CPU from the browser. So because of that, I switched to the position relative, and then we are using the display flex. And inside of the main styling sheet, I set width and height of the HTML and body to be 100, and the overflow to be hidden. That actually will have we will not have the scroll in any case. And Mark, since you suggest me to use position relative instead of like position fixed, is it apply also for using the position absolute as well, or it was only for position fixed?
I think it might, but I think maybe you get away with it if you don't shift its position so it stays on the same plane. So hopefully in the clear.
Okay, but I mean, in that case, like anyway, if we can do it like with the position of relative using the display flex or display block, inline block, that would be a better solution. Beside that, what else I find out personally, that is a way of how we can use from the ViewChild the static property. So it means that actually if the static is true, then we we are able to use structural directives, right? Which means like using the ngif and things like that. Or I to be honest, I can't remember, but I know that if it's like true, then we can't like use all the time. And like for example, in this case, ngif state, later on we can see I couldn't get it like even with static false and static true to something like this to work. because all the time I would have the error of that I'm trying to get the access of the element that doesn't exist, and then I could do some hack and tricks with set timeout of 0, but then using the display none or hidden is a good alternative to that, since the element will be always rendered. Mark, could you tell us more
definitely.
about using the static property?
Yeah, so the static property I think was introduced around Angular 7 or 8, or maybe it wasn't introduced at that time, but the default switched and then it immediately switched back the following major version. So when static is false, which is the current default, that means that Angular expects this thing to not always exist. So why would it not always exist? It likely might not exist because you're going to use some structural directive. So if you use ngIf or ngFor, that ViewChild could potentially not be rendered on the page. So if you want to use structural directives, you're going to want to use static as false. When it's true, this should only be done if um, there are no structural directives that can remove the element from the page, or JavaScript tricks. And if it's true, the benefit you get from this is that instead of having to wait until after view init, you get access to that reference on ng on init. So that's pretty cool.
Um, great explanation. Thank you. And I mean, can we try to apply that in this example shortly? I mean,
Sure.
since it means that actually if I write that I want to render this after the loading is only 100, uh, actually it means that then our code should work, right?
Well, it ultimately depends on what loading is doing.
So once the everything is loaded and we are adding the game, and the game is using here, yeah, is after a bunch of things, we are using the Pixie game container that is the reference is here, so from the view child. So
Okay.
once the loading is done, we are proceeding.
Okay. So do you see on line 75 how you have your this dot loading equals some calculation, and it is being done in a callback for something that says assets dot load bundle. So this is giving me heavy. This dot loading is going to be set to true anytime soon,
But
not synchronously at least.
um, can we sorry Mark, we got a comment from on a Twitch. Do you have a Twitter account?
I do. I'm gonna go ahead and blast the Toby's official Twitter account. That's a good place to get notified for Twitch streams and also blogs. But if you are interested in stuff that I will ramble on about, I will also post that. That's at Code Moocow, for anyone interested.
Awesome. I will share mine later. I actually need to find. I didn't start using like Twitter on very often, but definitely I should. Uh, Thank you. So does it mean that if I will pass like from this callback, and if I will set the same thing like here, if the loading is equal to 100, then we can call our function that will add the game with the player?
I mean, I'm hoping so. You'd have to show me the implementation details for add game with player. What is in there that would make us nervous of it showing or not showing.
I mean, we can even comment like everything. The point is that we want just to get the access to the Pixie game container that is like here. Sorry, you set it above, and that is ViewChild. So this is our ViewChild that we
Yeah.
have.
So if you toggle on the Boolean value that makes it rendered on the page, I don't remember if we'll have to wait for the next cycle to get a reference, because just because you set it to true doesn't mean that the element exists on the page just yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, let's give a shot and see if it works. No, I mean, yeah, it's kind of the same error. Cannot read properties of undefined. All right, I mean, at some point, like sometime we can see probably there is I mean, but what is like silly, just to show you, I mean, is that if we would say like here,
Is there a strong reason why we don't want that element to exist until the game's loaded?
no, I mean, there is no any, yeah, and now it works. So the set time of 0
Yeah.
make it work.
So to explain that, right? So when that value becomes true, that's going to be when Angular determines, oh, okay, I'll try to render this element now. But obviously, you can't just immediately try to access that element, right? Because it's yet to have been rendered. So using something like a set timeout, obviously in the next tick, the element would have been rendered because Angular would have rendered it. But my rule of thumb is always use static is true until you can't. And the reason for this is that it avoids problems like these. If you play by that rule, you won't have an issue if you have this thing you're trying to reference and then it may or may not exist on the page. So here, like I don't really know why we want to hide it. I'm kind of confused on what's going on here, but I also haven't seen the code in a while, so I don't know.
All right. Just a second. Then we can actually move a second forward just to find out my Twitter link to share and comment. So
While we're sitting through, another cool strategy to do when you try to use that static is true for the ViewChild options is that you could wrap the Pixie game container in a component, ng if that component, and then when the component gets rendered, obviously the container you're trying to put all these assets on, that element obviously is on the page. So then it lets you use static is true. So that would be a pretty good way. I'm trying to think of how you could stick to one component.
So I mean, yeah, with this. I mean, for example, here the game have currently the background and everything. So using and our canvas is like empty. So it's not kind of big deal to be just like display none from the performance perspective. So sounds good. We can move forward since we have kind of a lot of new stuff to cover. And so what I have done here, I pre-coded everything that we will cover in this episode today. So I added the new assets that we can find out inside the assets folder. We have the player, and player can have the three different states, that is get hit, destroyed, or moving. And from here, I'm adding the assets on the same way as I did last time. So pretty much it's copy paste a code. Later on, we can see and to improve this code to be added inside of the some service or create some usable function. And then I'm adding that reference for loading. So we want to preload all assets, and adding the game with commander and the enemy from the day one is commented, and I wrote the other function that is that will add the game with the player. So this part is the same as previous, and this is something very kind of important. This is something new, and as I just want to create one step back and see it, to show how we did it. Like the first time we create the enemy. The enemy was inside of the app component, and everything about that enemy was here. Actually, what we want to have everything on one place. So we want to have the player on one place. If we want to multiply the player or the enemies, we want to have all code about that game element on one particular place, so we can easily get the access. And how we can do that? I'm creating the class of player, and then we'll cover what our player have. Sorry. Uh, oh, okay. Test 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, the meat probably. I don't know. Probably it's something wrong there. Okay, cool. I'm glad it works properly. So here I'm creating the player, and then we will. Um, so sorry for this technical issue. Do sure. What what do you think that I need to fix? Okay, does it work now? Great. I don't know how that was changed by itself. Okay, awesome. Thanks really for letting me know. So from here, what we have is a player class, and player class will include will contain all logic that is related to the player, and this is something that I, in the first place, I want to ask you, Mark, about your opinion. What do you think about using the class I mean, from my perspective, using the classes inside of especially on Angular, it's not like very often. I mean, yeah, I used it personally like much more before than now, but for the game development, it's kind of uh, very very often, like kind of common thing. All right, sounds good. So we have the class of player, and then what the player will contain is we want to pass like very mostly on all our classes for the game. We will pass as a first parameter that will be the container. So we can add the element and remove the element from the container. And container is actually our stage. And then I'm passing the assets for the moving, getting hit or destroyed. And then I'm setting that all values I set to be private, so we can not access to them uh, to that properties from the other places. And after I set as a default, as initial actually state to be the kind of idle or moving animation, then I'm setting the player animated sprite, the same thing that we actually done before. And I'm setting the animation speed, I'm scaling our player, and I'm playing the animation. I'm setting the default position to be on 50-50 from the x and epsilon um, axis, like top and left from the stage. And then I'm adding the event listener for the key press, so we can actually get the information if the user is hitting like the up or down or left or right buttons. So here, what I'm doing, I'm just checking like what the key was pressed, and then I'm setting the player to be in some moving state. And as we know, like on each frame update, so we have a ticker from the previous um, from the last time, yeah, stream, yeah. I'm passing like the update to our player reference that is here. So on each frame per second, we want to do, if it's needed, some action. And in this case, like if the player is in a state of moving like down, I want to actually increase the position to be much higher, and the same thing is like for up, left, or right. So from here, we can see that after I start moving, like I don't need to like hold all the time the up, down, or right. I'm adding the direction, and if I want to stop moving, I add additional key that is shift. So after user is hitting shift, that means like that the player moving is null, and then during the update, we will not have any action. So player will be stopped in position where he was at that moment. And now, I mean, we can go and explore a little, kind of much more deeper what's going on like inside of the code, and and give some comments. I want to ask you, Mark, about using the constructor inside of the class. In this case, in class of player. What do you think? Is it like better to have multiple parameters like here, since in the in in the practice, what we'll have easily, we can end in construction with like 5 plus or 10 plus parameters. It is better to pass like instead of passing like everything in the order, to just pass one object that will include everything that is needed. Destroy. Yeah, that is like a texture, and from here, that is what I did. Like on when I press 2, I want to change and to get this state. Like when I press 2, I want to have the state, actually the animation that our character is hitted, like he is. Um, so that's the way. And what I'm doing here, I'm replacing the textures. I'm closing the loop, so we don't want to have in a loop our animation of hitting. And this is interesting part. I want this animation to be much faster than the kind of moving animation. So I want to be like very quickly hit it and then to be finished like kind of much faster than um, animation of moving, because in the in the practice our player potentially can be hit multiple times, and then we want to show like very quickly like 10 times like it was here. If I will put like to be normal, like default one, you can see actually how that then it will look. See, like kind of much more slower than than initially, even though we can slow down if you want. So yeah, yeah. I completely can agree with that. I mean, especially like what can cause the problem when you start including optional properties and then you need to change the order, and then inside of the order, I mean, from here from the class everything seems pretty nice, but from here when you want to create that player, the instance of that player, then it's kind of much harder than and the code is not very easily readable. And before we move forward, I would just show one more. Um, Actually, we can. I just want to show you like that. If we imagine that our player is the enemy, or if we have the multiplayer, I would just put that our should be like here, should be like 50 here, can be just for a demo purpose. Position, and we can see that if it's needed, we can and here, yeah. So from here we can see that we easily just multiply our player. I mean, that can be tomorrow. That can be the logic for the enemies, or if we have the multiplayer or 5 players that is playing at the same time, we can easily recreate the element in the game that will follow and contain all the logic. So we don't have to struggle with kind of managing all of that, like how many players we have and etc. So everything can be very well like organized, and that's I find out is a is a good approach, like for using the PixiJS inside of the Angular, and even though like in the other use case. Great. I will now move forward and check with you how actually hitting animation work and how the destroy work work also, since we can see that once our character is destroyed, we don't have any more like our player on the screen. So first we have here one if else or switch case can be state where we are just manually we are checking the states, like what was actually, was it like the proper key was pressed by the user? If it is, then we are setting the player moving at some point in some direction, or if it's shift, we are stopping the player. So this actually can be moved here. And then if it's not, we want to check if our player is moving. If it's not, we don't want to our player get hit. If I command this, which I mean probably at some point we will do for the enemies, I can show you like now how the hit will be. Like we can multiple times like hit our player, and that's good for this. But if we have this block that want to check if our player is in the moving state, then we can hit, and we can hit another time once the previous was finished. So if the animation is not finished, I can't like have multiple triggers. So, and then I'm doing like kind of the same thing. I'm passing the play animation, and I'm setting that the player animation is getting hit. So that player animation, later on I'm controlling from here. We have from the PixiJS, we have onComplete callback that will be triggered every time once the animation is completed, and that will happen only once, only in the case if the player got hit, since we don't have the loop anymore. Just a second, we have technical problems. Oh, now it's fine. Awesome. Yeah, it's perfect. I can see you as you're moving, but I'm not sure. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, this is what we are getting like here, and how we are using the onComplete callback. Oh, I see. Is there a reason why you're not using ViewChild? Seems like the internet is breaking. I will try then to switch to the other internet connection. Maybe that can help. Just a second. Mm, yeah, it's here. It's on 106. Oh gosh. Okay. Hopefully, hopefully now everything will be okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want, like, we potentially, if we will have enough time, we have like 15 minutes more. We can do using the render too as well instead of using the view child. But oh, okay, a second, well, probably. mm, yeah, here's the link. Seems like, looks like we are back. All right. I think that we can continue with the player and then come back to the using the usage of the view child and render. So what is important is like that that here we are using the onComplete callback from the PixiJS, and that will be triggered every time once the animation is completed, and that can happen only like in this case if the animation doesn't have the loop, and that can be in a way of getting hit or destroyed. So once the animation is completed, what we are doing, we are checking like if the animation currently was getting hit. If it is, then we are returning to be the moving, so our player can be hit once again, and we are playing moving animation again. And from here, if the animation was destroyed, we are removing the child. This is also, I would say, uh, important thing. So from here and here, it seems like kind of obvious solution how we can add or remove the element from the stage, but actually like when you're doing that from the scratch and you start reading the documentation, you can easily start struggling with that, and using the instead of like removing the element like this, you can start removing with using the index and from the layers, and then grabbing the index, etc. can be very complicated. So it's good. Do you have, Mark, any comment on this, like, or if you have from the audience, um, uh, do you have any comment like how how we can actually do this differently, or this is like, what do you think about this approach of handling the player states using the here the enumeration, and then after the setting the player states as an enum, then basically like here is the setted logic, and then we are using the update from the ticker that actually is refreshed on every frame per second. So player moving is setting the state of the player, so we know like, oh, our player is like moving in that direction or not, and then since this will happen like immediately on every update, we are just confirming like what is the player animation direction, and then depending on that we are moving our player. And how would you do that? Like, I mean, since from here, what we can do, we can set the state, and then we, I mean, personally, at least I find out as a solution to use the ticker or refresh state as a as something where we will do some animation things that is needed. So I mean, I would say if we will apply this logic from here, like player position, it will work. But I mean, if you want, like, let me just show you like quickly what will be the result if I will just replace and say, all right, what this will apply at that moment. In that case, like that is down, you see. Oh, okay. Yeah, we can use that as well. That was but this is yeah, sure. So I mean, if I get it, like you would actually move everything from the update to some separate function, and then you will call like move the player or something, and then inside of that function you would pass like the whole logic. All right. Oh, okay. 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 Oh, I think that actually I got it. So for instance, like from here, from this callback where we are using the key down, so basically you will not call some general function like, oh, on key down. You will just call the function that would be like set the player direction, and that will have only like this part, and then you will call also the function that will be like set the player animation state or something like that. So we'll have kind of more organized code in that way. Good point. Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the end, like at some point, like in the upcoming episodes, we will see the part that actually uh, uh, will be good place for refactor, and then we can see and kind of learn something from that. And all right, I mean, from my standpoint, it's really good point. And so the next, probably in the next episode, I will see what we can do from here. I was thinking like to add kind of option to our players can fire the bullets, and also our how our player is moving, our background should be moved as well. So, and then we can have some sense of kind of real feeling like kind of we are moving somewhere. And that's from the UI perspective. And from here, and the assets, I would I would I can actually include the all assets. I mean, you can find on the Git repository the all assets. I mean, the new assets will come up during the every stream, and the assets are uh, bought. So like we have full game UI, and then we are doing some proper modification for our needs. But maybe I will see, maybe I will include inside of the repository like the all assets, so you can play yourself if you want, and try to make something cool. So from here, this is actually once again how we can add the player or any element inside of the game. In the first place, we are creating the class to avoid like creating everything inside of one component. And the other advantage of using the class is that we can apply like multiple elements inside of the stage if we would need to. And uh, and then from here we can use we used a complete callback from the uh, PixiJS library that actually will be triggered every time once the animation is completed. And later on, what is also kind of really great feature that we will use is that we will create some function, and then if it's needed, then from here we can actually access and to that set that property or whatever. So the point is that we can get the access to our player outside of the class as well. I mean, I know that all of that seems like pretty much straightforward and obvious, but during the development, just I don't know, you can easily get stuck into that kind of issues. We have like 4 minutes left. If you would have like any comments or any suggestions, feel free to give a comment on our Discord channel. And on every episode, we'll try to keep moving in that direction, like based on our audience, our community, and that's it. Do you have, Mark, anything else to add? Yeah, I see from here that we have one Eric's JS comment about that, and yeah, definitely that's something that will come up, and we will organize all of this using the NGRX, and I will use this opportunity um, to invite you to check the our NGRX Academy course on bitobi.com. It's really great. And even like I really learned something new from there, and it's very useful course. Sounds great. Thank you all for coming, and feel free to hit us on Discord and send all your recommendation. And stay tuned next week. Then at the same time, we will continue with a new episode. Thank you all for watching and see you soon then. Bye, Mark.